The editor of Scientific American is a guy named Michael Moyer, and he went on Fox and Friends this morning to discuss technological trends for the future. And apparently, they censored him before the segment. So he was emailing back and forth with Raw Story, and he said, quote, "They saw the recent Pew poll about whether people think teleportation and the like was going to exist and wanted someone to give true or false verdicts. I said I would do the spot, but that it's a fool's game to guess at what technologies are going to exist in a half century. I said I would do a Trends for the Future in Science segment." So the Fox producer approved that angle to the story. I said, quote, "A 50-year timescale is pretty far out, and that about the only interesting thing that the scientific community is sure will happen in the next 50 years is that climate change is going to get worse, and that we're going to have to deal with the impacts. So I put that as one of my talking points." The Fox producer came back and very politely and matter-of-factly said that we would have to replace the climate change item. So I included the thing about finding distant and potentially habitable planets instead. I love this, man. Because when you have somebody who's a free thinker, who actually believes in science and reason and rationality and empiricism and, reality, when you have one of these people go into Fox News and you get the stories from the inside, nothing beats it. I mean, he was tweeting up a storm also while he was there. He said, look, I could not stay in the green room because they had on Fox and Friends on the TV, and all they did was nothing but agitprop, which stands for agitation propaganda, against the Obama administration the entire time. It was ridiculous. I couldn't watch it. He said the makeup girl, when she was putting the makeup on his face, she asked him, "What do you think happened to the missing plane?" And he's like, "I don't know. It's probably at the bottom of the ocean." And she's like, "No, I think it landed somewhere." And he's like, "What?" He just felt like he was in the fucking Twilight Zone. He's like, everybody around there, it's like you have lower IQ levels no matter where you look. Like, shit doesn't fucking land when you say something in people's heads. And then I actually watched the segment, and they entered the segment by showing, like, a clip of the fucking Jetsons. And then, like, the girl on Fox and Friends was singing the Jetsons song, and they're like, "Well, how many of these things on the Jetsons are going to exist in the future? Let's ask a smart guy, because we're idiots." And it's like, oh my God, really? And the science conversation, you could tell that it was all, they whittled it down, and they had to edit it, and they made it so that it's only the pre-approved stuff. So what did they do? They focused on, well, in these areas, we're going to be able to cure these diseases, and these areas, we have this kind of advancement. And then they spoke about some negative things like myths. They said, well, time travel is probably a myth. That was actually one of the things they covered, that time travel's a myth. No, you don't say. And the Scientific American editor was like, yeah, that would probably violate the laws of physics. So this segment was so geared towards a Fox News audience. It was like dumbed down, and it was all about stuff that, couldn't be political, because they know if they have any political topics that are also scientific, what's going to happen? The liberals are going to be proved right about everything. So what do? Only stick to this, only stick to that. But when you read the story, I mean, it becomes obvious that what we're dealing with here is a network that it's not just that they are idiots, which they are, but there's also a high level of stick to the script, okay? Don't even entertain the ideas that might be true, okay? But we need to pander to our audience and pander to our corporate interests. And we need to be on this side of this issue regardless of the facts and the information and the science. In other words, what I'm trying to say is a very long way for me to say to you that they're lying to you. They're lying to you. Yes, a lot of them are idiots, but also a lot of them might know about what's going on in the world, at least more than they pretend, but they still have to, put on this persona and this role when they're on air, or the producers of the segments know, like, yeah, we get it. climate change is happening and we're all fucked and this is terrible and we need to do something, but you're going to have to leave that out, big guy. Man, what a terrible organization. What a terrible... This is a news channel. I mean, seriously, think about that. Put aside the idea that it's Fox News. Put aside the idea that it's obviously a propaganda outlet. Just the idea of having news in your title for the network, but then also at the same time telling a scientific mind, okay, the editor of Scientific American, sorry, you can't talk about one of the biggest findings and factual findings of science on air. How off base are you as a channel when that's the way that you approach the situation? It's helpless. You're hopeless. You're done. Nobody in their right mind should watch Fox News and expect to be getting actual information because they're grossly misstating the reality of the world.